Hey guys, Tyler here. So, Star Trek has been pretty successful as a media franchise for over half a century. Besides the dozens of TV shows and feature films, Star Trek has spawned an almost countless number of novels, comics, games, and more. When it comes to the Star Trek video games in particular, several major titles come to mind. Star Trek Armada, Star Trek Voyager Elite Force, Star Trek Bridge Commander, the MMO Star Trek Online, and others. And while these games have their dedicated fan bases, and several are quite fun to play, most Star Trek video games, well, leave a lot to be desired. They're generally made by third-party developers wishing to use the Star Trek license to profit off the brand. Not throwing any shade, well, maybe a little bit. In the face of these facts, many a Trekkie has lamented that there are just no good Star Trek video games. If only there was an action-adventure RPG that would let you command your own starship, recruit a multi-species crew, solve complex moral dilemmas, and even romance aliens, just like in Star Trek. Oh wait, there is! Mass Effect is one of the most successful and popular video game franchises of all time. An epic space opera set in a Milky Way galaxy colonized by humans and various other alien species, Mass Effect revolutionized how RPGs are made. From representation of same-sex relationships to innovative gameplay mechanics like the dialogue wheel, Mass Effect's outsized influence can be felt to this day. Naturally, the games borrowed lots of elements from and paid homage to numerous other sci-fi franchises. Among these are, of course, Star Wars, Babylon 5, Battlestar Galactica, Blade Runner, Alien, the works of H.P. Lovecraft, and more. But there's a surprising number of Star Trek references in Mass Effect, to the point that many of them are undoubtedly intentional. Indeed, Casey Hudson, Mass Effect's project director, is a self-described Star Trek fan. In today's video, I'll highlight several major connections between these two iconic franchises. Let's get started. In my estimation, Star Trek references in Mass Effect can be divided into 6 major categories: alien species or organizations, characters, actors, lines of dialogue, motifs, and themes. There's definitely some crossover between each of these categories, but just about every reference that I could find falls under at least one. So, without further ado, here's my attempt at a comprehensive list. Oh yeah, and by the way, spoilers for all of Star Trek and all of Mass Effect. The Borg, the Geth, and the Reapers. All 3 of these cybernetic races have some traits in common. In Star Trek, the Borg, of course, are a race of cybernetically enhanced organic beings whose artificial neural network forms a hive mind, referred to as the Borg Collective. The Geth, on the other hand, are a fully artificial race of effectively androids, having been created whole cloth by the Quarian species. But both do have a shared consciousness of sorts, and occasionally have to deal with lone dissenters who, nevertheless, still refer to themselves with plural pronouns.
What is the individual in front of me called?
There is no individual. We are Geth.
In fact, the introduction of Legion, a Gestalt consciousness formed by over 1,000 Geth programs inhabiting a unique mobile platform, possesses lots of similarities to the character Hugh's introduction in the Next Generation episode, I, Borg.
We are Borg. Yeah, but there's only one of you.
That said, many have rightly pointed out that the Geth share more similarities with the Cylons from Battlestar Galactica. In fact, a more apt comparison may be between the Borg and the Reapers. The Reapers, unlike the Geth, combine both organic and inorganic components and indoctrinate less powerful beings, similarly to the Borg's assimilation. Of course, once again, these two species' methods and motives for so-called assimilation don't exactly line up one-to-one. The Borg's prime directive, so to speak, is to add sufficiently advanced intelligent species biological and technological distinctiveness to their own, to gradually reach a state of perfection. The Reapers, on the other hand, harvest organic beings by dissolving them into a raw genetic paste, which is then used for the construction of new Reaper starships. They can also turn people into husks that scout out new genetic material using chemical receptors, and they even make use of genetically engineered servant races like the Collectors to do their bidding. They view carbon-based life as a blight on the universe, kind of like V'ger from Star Trek the Motion Picture. The Reapers are hell-bent on destroying organic intelligent life in 50,000-year cycles, the true purpose of which is revealed in the Mass Effect DLC, Leviathan. Orions and Asari. One of the visual inspirations behind the Asari's blue skin coloration was the Orion's green complexion. Orion women also use pheromones to seduce members of other species, much in the same way the Asari attract potential mates. Some believe that the Asari even use mind control to make themselves more appealing to different aliens, which is not too dissimilar from the dynamic we witness in the Enterprise episode Bound.
I can understand why I might find Asari attractive, but how can they be attractive to humans too? They look just like Solarians.
What? They look exactly like us. I'm not seeing the Solarian thing at all. At all.
You're both wrong. Asari look just like Bluturians. Look at the head fringe.
Wait, you don't think they're like mind controlling us to see them as attractive, do you?
Obviously, numerous differences exist between the Orions and Asari, including the fact that the Asari are monogendered, but the traits they have in common cannot be ignored. Oh yeah, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how Asari mind melds are reminiscent of Vulcan mind melds. The Seti Eels and the Thorian. In what is undoubtedly Mass Effect 1's most annoying and difficult mission, you encounter a sentient plant on the planet Pharos called a Thorian.
That does not look like any plant I've ever seen. This may be problematic.
This monstrosity uses painful spores to control people's minds, almost certainly a direct reference to the Seti Eels that Khan uses to control people in Star Trek II. In fact, a memorable moment where Phi Dan shoots himself after ignoring the Thorian's order to kill Shepard.
It wants me to stop you, but I won't. I won't!
Is almost an exact recreation of the Wrath of Khan scene, where Captain Terrell disobeys Khan. The Klingons, the Krogan, and the Turians. The Klingons are, of course, one of the most widely recognized alien species from Star Trek, having been featured in nearly every installment of the franchise. They are known for their warrior culture and strong sense of honor, both elements that are paralleled in the cultures of the Krogan and the Turians. The Krogan's reputation is definitely that of an aggressive race hell-bent on territorial expansion, much in line with the Klingons of the original series era, and Krogan clans are somewhat akin to Klingon houses. Meanwhile, the Turians' sense of honor and duty in combat is reminiscent of the Klingons in the Next Generation era. Section 31 and the Spectre program. Section 31 is a clandestine organization in Star Trek that works outside the law to help preserve the safety and security of the Federation at all costs. In this way, they operate much like the CIA, although the Federation Starfleet also has its own distinct intelligence agency, Starfleet Intelligence. Section 31 is even mentioned directly in the Starfleet Charter. That's where it gets its name. Similarly, in Mass Effect, Spectres operate above the law and are sanctioned by the Citadel Council with the mission of preserving galactic stability, by any means necessary. Some have likened Section 31 to Cerberus, the paramilitary human survivalist group led by President Josiah Bartlett, the Elusive Man. Cerberus's core belief is that humans deserve a greater role in the galactic community. They feel the Systems Alliance has been too hamstrung by law and public opinion to effectively stand up to the other Citadel races. But I honestly think that a more apt Trek analog for Cerberus would be the xenophobic Terra Prime faction in Enterprise. Both view any and all methods of achieving human ascension as justified, regardless of morality, and thus engage in terrorism, sabotage, and attempt assassinations. Terra Prime also has another, more direct analog in Mass Effect, the human political party Terra Firma. While there aren't any characters in Mass Effect whose personalities are directly lifted from Star Trek, there are quite a few character motifs that are shared between franchises. Commander Shepard definitely serves as an analog to Captain James T. Kirk, and visually, the default female Shepard may have pulled some inspiration from Catherine Janeway. But besides Shepard, a couple other Normandy crew members share traits with counterparts on the Starship Enterprise. Mordin Solus, a Solarian scientist who joins Shepard in their fight against the Collectors in Mass Effect 2, apparently enjoys the works of British composers Gilbert and Sullivan. In fact, with the right combination of dialogue options, you can get Mordin to perform an adaptation of Gilbert and Sullivan's "I am the very model of a modern Major General," which Mordin morphs into "I am the very model of a scientist Solarian."
I am the very model of a scientist Solarian. I've studied species Turian, Asari, and Batarian. I'm quite good at genetics as a subset of biology because I am an expert, which I know is a tautology. My xenoscience studies range from urban to agrarian. I am the very model of a scientist Solarian.
This is a nod to Commander Data's affinity for Gilbert and Sullivan in The Next Generation, as both characters are hyper-intelligent and somewhat detached, while possessing a fascination with human culture.
A dictatorial word. Sing, Wolf, sing.
And of course, I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention Kenneth Donnelly, the Normandy SR2's very Scottish chief engineer.
We're off to kick the Collectors right in their daddy bags.
Donnelly seems like an obvious homage to Montgomery Scott, with Donnelly's voice actor also citing Ewan McGregor's accent as an inspiration. Speaking of Mass Effect actors, you may be surprised at just how many are, in fact, Star Trek alums. One of the most widely recognized crossover actors is Marina Sirtis, aka Counselor Deanna Troi.
That's our ship, the Enterprise.
Who voices the Asari Liara T'Soni's mother, Matriarch Benezia. Benezia appears in Mass Effect 1 during a mission on the planet Noveria, where if you bring Liara along as a squad mate, you unlock some very special dialogue.
What have you told her about me, Liara?
What could I say, Mother? That you're insane? Evil? Should I explain how to kill you? What could I say?
Anyway, other Star Trek alums who lent their voice to Mass Effect include the following. Worf actor Michael Dorn
Perhaps today is a good day to die.
voices the Krogan Gatatog Uvink in Mass Effect 2 and 3.
You abandon many traditions to get your way. Dangerous.
Speak when spoken to, Uvink.
Uvink is a traditionalist who opposes many of the changes Rex initiates if Rex becomes the leader of Clan Urdnot. Armin Shimmerman, who plays Quark in Deep Space Nine,
all I ask is a tall ship and a load of contraband to fill her with.
is actually the voice of the Solarian counselor, Valern.
We are convening a summit amongst our species. If we can manage to secure our own borders, we may once again consider aiding you.
As well as Fidan, leader of the human colony Zoo's Hope on Pharos.
Oh, Commander. I'm glad they finally sent somebody to help us.
Keith Sarabika, who plays the Bajoran Vedic Tiro Anidas in the Star Trek Voyager episode Repression.
The mind awakens and focuses on its task.
And the Escalator Damrus in Enterprise's Rogue Planet.
You're surrounded by things you can hear but not see. It can stimulate the imagination.
Provides numerous voices for Mass Effect. Not only is he the voice of the Reaper Harbinger,
this hurts you,
but also the human mechanic Delan on Horizon.
Those things are collectors? You mean they're real?
The Turian shuttle mechanic Lee on Noveria.
So what can I do for you today?
And the human criminal Elias Kellum on the Citadel.
Off the record in a C-Sec interrogation room? Sure.
Carolyn Seymour has had multiple guest appearances throughout Star Trek, playing two different Romulan commanders.
Had we chosen to exercise our right to defend the neutral zone, we would not have stopped with one starship.
And what exactly is the nature of this clandestine assignment?
A Malkorian scientist.
Without medical aid from his ship, I believe that Riker will not survive the day.
and a human holonovel character.
My job is to make sure that this household runs smoothly.
She also voices Dr. Karen Chakwas in the Mass Effect trilogy.
I've lived a full life. No regrets. I'd like to make sure the crew gets the same opportunity.
Dwight Schultz, who played Lieutenant Reginald Barclay in The Next Generation.
But if I'm in the matter stream too long, your pattern would degrade to the point where your signal would be permanently lost.
Voices both Navigator Charles Presley.
Humanity has always handled its own problems. Saren attacked one of our colonies. We should be the ones to stop him.
As well as Dr. Zev Cohen, a microbiologist on Novaria, whose team has been working on a biotoxin.
They're suffering from a toxin. There was an accident. I have a non-disclosure agreement. I shouldn't discuss it with anyone outside of the company.
Raphael Sbarge, who plays the Maquis fighter turned Starfleet officer Michael Jonas in Voyager.
I'm working on it, Captain. I'm having trouble resetting the EPS manifold.
Voices Marine Caden Alenko throughout the Mass Effect franchise.
You can't really believe that. We both know what Cerberus is like, what they're capable of. I wanted to believe the rumors that you were alive, but I never expected anything like this.
Interestingly, while Alenko has one guest appearance in Mass Effect 2 and features heavily in Mass Effect 3, according to a survey, 60% of players never get to hear much of Alenko's dialogue, since they choose to save Ashley Williams on Vermeer in Mass Effect 1 instead of Caden.
I can't tell the aliens from the animals.
Shory Agdashlu, who went on to play Commodore Paris in Star Trek Beyond.
We tracked her stranded ship to a sector of uncharted nebula. Here, 210, Mark 14.
Voices Quarian Admiral Shalaran Vastanbe in Mass Effect 2 and 3.
Tali, you're accused of bringing active guests to the migrant fleet. What say you?
Simon Templeman, who plays a holodeck character in TNG's The Defector.
If his cause be wrong, our obedience to the king wipes the crime of it out of us.
Voices Quarian Admiral Hangerel Vasnima in Mass Effect 2 and 3.
Lie to them if you must, Zalcoris, but don't lie to me and expect me to stay silent.
As well as Dr. Gavin Archer in the Overlord DLC.
I know you think I'm a monster, and you're right. Not a day goes by where my dreams aren't haunted by what I did to David.
And finally, Robin Sachs, who portrays the Inari General Valen in Voyager's The Void.
Many have tried. All they did was waste resources that could have kept them alive longer.
Voices bounty hunter Zaid Masani in Mass Effect 2 and 3.
Figured it might end something like this.
On the topic of voice acting, what about some standout lines of dialogue that these actors have delivered? Well, technically, most of these would be one-liners, not dialogue, but it's the same principle. Here's 5 memorable lines in Mass Effect that are direct or indirect nods to Star Trek. This is, "It's green?" When Commander Shepard visits the Dark Star Lounge on the Citadel, they receive a strange alien drink and remark,
It's green?
This line is a clear callback to the TOS episode By Any Other Name, in which Scotty picks up a weird bottle and makes the same comment.
Well, it's green.
In fact, in the TNG episode Relics, Data says a similar line when pouring a mysterious green liquid for Scotty.
It is green.
Green?
By the way, as far as alcohol references, Commander Shepard and Dr. Chakwas' practice of sharing a bottle of Ceres Ice brandy can also be compared to Captain Kirk sharing Saurian brandy with Dr. McCoy. Good night, Little Wing. Shortly before dying, Matriarch Benezia says to her daughter,
Good night, Little Wing. I will see you again with the dawn.
While this line may sound a little unusual, it makes more sense when you remember that Majel Barrett Roddenberry's character Loaxana Troy often calls her daughter Deanna Little One.
What matters, my little one, is that your mother's happy. I only asked who he is and where you met him. Those are not unusual questions.
Yes, exhilarating, isn't it? In one confrontation, when Commander Shepard tells a Krogan soldier that the ruins around them are about to collapse, the Krogan responds,
Exhilarating, isn't it?
The same line is delivered by Christopher Lloyd as the Klingon Commander Kruge in Star Trek III: The Search for Spock, under similar circumstances, regarding the Genesis planet.
You fool, look around you! The planet's destroying itself!
Yes, exhilarating, isn't it?
When your world seems hollow, we help you touch the sky. In Mass Effect's Bring Down the Sky DLC, a radio promo can be heard reciting the slogan, "When your world seems hollow, we help you touch the sky." This is, without a doubt, a direct reference to the TOS episode, "For the world is hollow, and I have touched the sky," in which a Fabrini living on top of a mountain says, "For the world is hollow, and I have touched the sky." Korora is essentially a great rock in space. This is a more subtle and perhaps unintentional nod to Star Trek. In Mass Effect 2, when the player requests more information on a planet called Korora, EDI describes it as essentially a great rock in space. The same phrasing Spock uses to describe the planetoid Regula in Star Trek 2. In reference to visual nods, numerous design elements dot the Mass Effect games that serve as callbacks to Star Trek. One of the most prominent is the logo of the Systems Alliance, which, while perhaps not solely an homage to Star Trek, does bear a resemblance to the Starfleet logo. The inclusion of a poker table on the Normandy is likely a reference to the recurring Enterprise D poker table in TNG, though we don't really get to do much with the Normandies. As far as scientific similarities go, while Mass Effect's primary method of faster-than-light travel, the mass relays, are more similar to Babylon 5's jump gates, an important component of Starship's propulsion engines is the rare element Zero, a loose analog to Star Trek's dilithium. The thoroughness of Mass Effect's codex entries is also in line with Star Trek's attention to detail. And of course, the racial diversity of the Normandy's human crew, particularly in Mass Effect 3, is reminiscent of the level of diversity among the mostly human Enterprise crew in TOS. It is true that these franchises are quite dissimilar in a lot of ways. Mass Effect is overtly military science fiction, whereas Star Trek has more of a focus on peaceful scientific exploration. Star Trek emphasizes the accomplishments of individuals, while Mass Effect puts more of an emphasis on culture and camaraderie. Overall, though, both worlds are quite optimistic. In Mass Effect's timeline, humanity has come together in common cause to forge a bright new path for our species, and the often subconscious in-group out-group mentality is more directed towards members of alien races. Mass Effect's optimism is reinforced by the game's sleek, clean yet functional design aesthetic, somewhat reminiscent of Matt Jeffrey's design approach in TOS and the aborted Star Trek Phase 2, which influenced the motion picture. The player is presented throughout Mass Effect with diplomatic solutions, though as in Trek, gunfire is always an option as well. And humanity's efforts to prove ourselves to the wider galactic community seem to borrow significantly from Star Trek Enterprise. This is most evident with the Citadel Council's condescending attitude towards humanity, similarly to the Vulcans' hindering of human progress in the Enterprise pilot Broken Bow, and various other later episodes.
Ah yes, Reapers. The immortal race of sentient starships allegedly waiting in dark space. We have dismissed that claim.
6 months later. While this may not be every single similarity that fans could find when comparing these two sci-fi franchises, as I stated at the beginning of this video, I wanted this list to be as comprehensive as possible. That said, I'm sure I inevitably left some things out that perhaps deserved mentioning. So, if you can think of something, let me know down in the comments. And let me know what your favorite Star Trek reference is in Mass Effect. Not nearly enough Star Trek fans realize this game series exists, nor how similar it is to their beloved franchise. So, I hope this video piqued your interest in Mass Effect. It's certainly worth your time. With that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below and don't forget to share it. That stuff really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that as well so you won't miss future uploads, and click the bell icon to receive all notifications. If you want to support my work even further, becoming a patron or a member is a great way to do so. Links to those, as well as my social media and merch store, are in the description. That's all I have for this week. I should go.